Live from our Seven Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We lead the bulletin tonight with developing news as the town of Rosebery and surrounds on the west coast remain on alert. A bushfire has engulfed at least 2 properties. Our reporter Tom Johnson is there and joins us live. Good evening to you, Tom. Now, from what I can see, you're at one of those businesses which has been destroyed.
Good evening, Kim. Yes, I am. The Mount Black Lodge here in Rosebery has been destroyed. Firefighters have been on this scene for hours. In fact, they're still actively dousing the flames here. It's a terrible story for the owners. There's another building which has also been destroyed. That is the local Heritage Centre in Rosebery, and even the nexus of Rosebery, the MMG mine, of course, the main employer in town, that has also been in the line of fire. We understand it has been damaged. Firefighters have already called for those residents in Arthur Street to evacuate. They've been most at risk. Those in surrounding streets are also being urged to get out if it's safe to do so. Now, it is hot here in Rosebery. The temperature today has reached 32 degrees and it will remain warm overnight. So those on the ground here are still at risk. It's a watch and act from the TFS. So hopefully firefighters can make sure the threat doesn't extend to any more of the town. Kim?
Let's hope so. Thank you, Tom. And also, just on that, police have just advised an evacuation centre has been set up at Zian's study hub. The Rosebery District School is also considered a safe place. We'll bring you more details as they come to hand. The state's healthcare system is grappling with resource shortages, with ambulances manned by only one paramedic for the second time in a week. Public Health says it comes down to staff absences and unplanned sick leave, but claims it's still operating at a safe level.
An ambulance is usually sent out to an emergency with 2 paramedics, but last night in the south there was a single paramedic in each, accompanied by a patient transport officer.
These people aren't trained to deal with emergencies and in many circumstances may well be confronted with scenes that might be difficult for them to cope with.
It's the second time in just over a week that patient transport officers have been forced to step into a role the union says they aren't fully trained for.
We're in a terrible situation at the moment. Ambulance paramedics feel demoralised and there's no hope at the moment that things will get better. We are having to call on any resource we can.
The Health Department says it has well-established contingency plans in place to manage staff absences, assuring patient transport officers are qualified to work with paramedics but will dispatch a second paramedic in situations requiring more than one. It comes as the union continues its bargaining dispute with Ambulance Tasmania. They say this is one example of the severe recruitment and ramping problems that needs to be addressed.
We need an ambulance service and a government that's prepared to step up to the line and make significant decisions about resourcing an ambulance.
Since we came to government, we've employed an additional 270 paramedics across the state. But like I said, operational issues and how they deal with staffing levels of Ambulance Tasmania.
Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanians with an appetite for fresh and local produce are pouring in for the first day of the Taste of Summer Festival. Our reporter, Brianna Boylan, joins us live from Hobart's waterfront. Brianna, what's the atmosphere like down there?
Kim, it's buzzing. People are flocking through the gates, ready to sample some of the best Tasmania has to offer from more than 80 stalls. This year's event was pushed forward a day to line up with the public holiday and officially opened this afternoon. Now, the first night does tend to attract the largest turnout, organisers predicting more than 9,000 people to pour in. Hobart has turned up the heat for the event, with tonight's temperature sitting around 30 degrees, but I can assure you there are plenty of tasty refreshments to stay cool.
We've got our slushy machines going, we're amped up, we've got this lovely space out here.
We've got some beautiful strawberry daiquiris made with a native falernum, a couple of spritzers, one including Westaway Farms raspberries.
We have ice cream. We're going to have 5 flavours on offer, and we're situated right near the kids area, so it's ideal for the kids.
The festival is running until January 2, with Aussie icon Daryl Braithwaite taking the stage on New Year's Eve. So Kim, if you're looking to bring in the new year with a live rendition of his classic hit The Horses, this is the place to be.
Who doesn't love the horses? Thank you so much, Brianna. Have a great night down there on the waterfront. Summer has finally arrived and holidaymakers took advantage of the conditions. Tasmanians headed to beaches and pools as parts of the state sweltered, along with one beachgoer who had a special way to keep cool.
On a hot day like today, beach is the word, but for Toby Bell, bird is the word.
A little spray bottle for him and then we spray him with the water.
Rainbow lorikeet Dex had his own beachside retreat.
Dex, do you enjoy the beach?
As locals flipped from pontoons into Sandy Bay's sweet relief, some enjoyed the joy of sandcastles.
And then make a big moat around here.
For one Canadian visitor, a far cry from Toronto's -12.
I've been terrible at sending my friends pictures of me at the beach. That's how mean I am.
It's invigorating, but very pleasant once you're in.
For those inland in Launceston, the Gorge was the ideal place to be, including the chairlift, with long queues of visitors flying just a little closer to the sun, while the recently reopened pool was naturally a hit.
I've been to the pool, but it was way too cold.
So if you're into water sports,
the sun's out, playing sinkies in the water with the kids, couldn't get better.
Or land sports,
To get this taught, mate.
or even court sports, today was the day. Riverbend Park also popular, although some tourists are used to this kind of weather.
You don't feel the heat too much?
Nah, we're from Queensland.
The UV risk remains though. Tasmanians are encouraged to be sun smart, with the Weather Bureau emphasising the unseasonably hot end to December.
Heat waves are rare for Tasmania because we're sticking out into a pretty cool ocean that generally tends to cool the air masses down as they come over us.
Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
It may have been a picture-perfect calm day on the water, but for competitors lining up in the Launceston to Hobart, patience was the key. Due to the conditions, the start of the race was delayed and nearly half the fleet was forced to restart because of a premature departure.
Spirits high as competitors prepared to set sail for the 16th Launceston to Hobart. Although it wasn't all smooth sailing, with the race delayed by 50 minutes due to tidal and wind conditions.
And if the tide's running in, it's almost impossible for boats to get out. So what we did today was we moved down closer to low head until there was breeze and enough breeze for the boats to actually sail.
Marking only the third time in the race's history, yachts haven't sailed from the Tamar River. But the delays gave the 9 teams more time to prepare for the 2-day trek to Hobart.
We just have light northeasterly. Hopefully we can get through Banks Strait, but it doesn't look like it, so we might find a bit of tide.
Eventually sounding the start signal.
5, 4, 3, 1.
Fork in the road forged through the fleet, the early front runner in the race.
If they can get to Tasman Island before the southerly comes through, then they'll have a really big chance of breaking the record.
For others, it was a frustrating start with 4 of the competitors, Sundowner, Iquique, Heatwave and Force 11, forced to restart.
We're a new boat, we've only sailed it a couple of times, so it's just a bit of a trial run for us, I think.
Paralympian Matty Bug, he's on Sundowner, and I'm about to have words with him because they actually were premature starters today, so I'm just waiting to meet him when he gets down there to give him an earful.
Competitors will now sail along the east coast, expected to cross the finish line on the 29th. McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
Returning to our lead story tonight, and a bushfire has destroyed buildings in Rosebery with hot and windy conditions today, making firefighting difficult. We cross now to Tom Johnson, who is there. Tom, the fire came close to the town.
Well, yes, it did, Kim. Where I'm standing now is really right on the edge of town here in Rosebery, and trees and vegetation have been destroyed. It is still very smoky, and in fact, firefighters left just a moment ago from here next to me to get some more water. This story has not been without property damage. The Mount Black Lodge has been destroyed, along with the Heritage Centre, which is near where I'm standing as well. And a few moments ago, though, some better news from MMG, the main mine in town. They released a statement saying all workers have made it out safely, and also night shift has been cancelled for tonight. Firefighters here in Rosebery remain on scene, but the good news is that advice has been downgraded, so it appears the firefighters have the situation and the bushfire threat under control now. Kim?
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. Well, Longford residents have been advised of another water outage overnight following yesterday's town-wide disruption. TasWater says it will be shut off for 3 hours between midnight and 3 a.m. Wednesday. The suspension is to finish work undertaken yesterday. Well, it's nearly 10 months since Jeremy Rockliff was suddenly thrust into the Premier position after the shock resignation of then leader Peter Gutwein. As he gets set to mark 1 year at the helm, he's labelled his party's instability as a chance to refresh. In the first of our 4-part series looking back at the biggest stories of the year, Jeremy Rockliff says he's confident he has the right team around him to tackle upcoming challenges, and he's not going anywhere.
It was the shock resignation which stopped Tasmania. Peter Gutwein announcing he was stepping down.
I've got nothing left in the tank, and unless you can give 110% to the role of Premier, you shouldn't be doing this job.
The corridors of power are a world away from his northwest farm, but new Premier Jeremy Rockliff is confident he's relishing in the role.
I'm enjoying the cut and thrust of the Parliament more. I'm enjoying making a difference and making some calls.
This despite the dual workload of Premier and Health Minister.
Irrespective of the hat that I would wear, I would fill my day. You know, I used to think I was busy as the opposition whip in Parliament.
While some have questioned whether he really wanted the prime position, the Premier's declaring he's here for the long haul and will lead his Liberal team to the next election.
I absolutely expect to be, yes. I really enjoy the job. It's a great job. You get out of bed every single day and you go to work, and there's always something to be enthused and excited about.
The previous Premier's premature walkout wasn't the only resignation in a rocky year. Sarah Courtenay and Jackie Petrusma left Parliament, while Jane Howlett stepped down from Cabinet, forcing Parliament to be prorogued twice.
Well, I guess after 20 years in politics, you learn to expect the unexpected, and the last 12 months has been unexpected in terms of people that have left our team, and indeed, but that's an opportunity to refresh.
Despite those challenges, he's carried on his party's economic agenda, and no time was wasted in sowing the seeds of progressive change, restoring the House of Assembly to 35 seats, pledging to ban conversion therapy, and in tandem with the Treasurer, committing to nation-leading pokies reform.
This will have no impact on nearly everyone, but it'll have a big impact on a small number of people.
All decisions made in the face of party rumblings.
If you're willing to stand up and fight for something, then one, you truly believe in it, and it must be the right thing to do from my perspective.
But the year has been dominated by harrowing evidence at the Commission of Inquiry into child sexual abuse in institutional settings, which exposed the failures of governments past and present.
I think we all feel and should feel a degree of responsibility as government, whether or not we were there at a particular time or not.
Questions of integrity still remain over the government, the Liberals facing pressure over their local community facilities fund, and there's been recent interference in TASCAT appointments.
We're putting more resources into the Integrity Commission, for example, reforming RTI processes, and understand the need for a very strong transparency agenda.
The fight for a Tasmanian AFL team and accompanying stadium is still being fought. Despite public and political blowback, the Premier's confident it's the right decision, and that will get our team.
I don't want an AFL team that's half-baked. I don't want another Gold Coast, but it just seemed a no-brainer opportunity to me to have the best of infrastructure, like other states of Australia have, as controversial as they have been.
Controversy that will likely follow into 2023. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
And there was another yacht race which kicked off today, the 50th session of the Melbourne to Hobart. 49 yachts began their journey south from Port Phillip Bay and now entering Bass Strait. Jazz Player is the leading Tasmanian boat in 8th place, while Scarlet Runner is in 1st. 15-year-old Hobartian Isabel Gray has won the women's gift at Hobart's Bikes and Spikes. Her maiden win wasn't the only surprise. Dutchman Roy Efting has barely raced a handicap but came out on top in the men's wheel race.
And there we go, the gun sets off the runners in the 800 metres.
A crowd packed the Newtown Oval stand for the first act in a week of post-Christmas carnivals. They saw 15-year-old Isabel Gray claim her maiden gift.
Very shocking. I was not expecting to make the semis, to be honest.
It was also a first gift win for Jesse McKenna, the son of West Coast Eagles legend Guy McKenna, slaying his highly fancied opponents Jack Hale and Jacob Despard.
I got away with one of the best starts I've had in any race so far, and from there I just relied on my top speed, which I have a lot of faith in at the moment. And from then I just commanded the race.
Tasmanian Lauren Perry took her second Hobart wheel race win in a row. The pair of backmarkers caught the front with a lap to go, and Perry was too strong.
It's really hard leading out that whole last lap, especially on an outdoor track. But I was lucky enough, Christina really saved me a bit of energy.
Dutch scratchman Roy Efting's first carnival campaign is already a success, taking out the men's wheel race despite his lack of experience in handicap racing.
I've only seen it in Australia, but I really like it. It's like a good way to get everybody racing against each other, giving everybody a chance.
The carnival series moves to Launceston Silverdome tomorrow. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
After 3 consecutive losses to them, the Jack Jumpers have beaten the New Zealand Breakers. In front of a rabid and royal home crowd, they broke away and were never caught.
With royalty in the crowd, the Jack Jumpers were charged with dethroning the Breakers, who'd beaten them 3 times this season already. Fabian Krislovic was forced into some grunt work early.
Just a bit long on that, Krislovic though. Offensive board.
Also sinking them from deep.
Krislovic, he can make these threes. And he got the home bounce.
And helping the Jackies run away to 8 points of breathing space by the first break. Into the second, and import Milton Doyle's pace was too much, blowing past Brantley.
Great offensive move, Milton Doyle.
The Jack Jumpers grabbed 13 steals on the night. Clint Steindl showing his quick hands at the start of the second half and finishing it off.
Easy bucket.
It wasn't the only time defence turned into offence. Milton Doyle picked the ball out of Liafa's hands, then put him in the spin cycle.
And then off the glass with a beautiful touch.
The lead was managed all night long. The result, secured when Josh Magette pushed it out to 13 with less than 5 to play.
Magette knocks it down.
Jack McVeigh still putting the Breakers in a spin to the very end.
What a tough bucket.
It was just, a battle. We've had many battles with them already, and to get one from them was great.
The Ant Army did their work down low against what was the best defence in the league, 16 offensive boards to 6, and putting up 46 points in the paint, compared to a measly 24 from the Breakers. The effort was music to the coach's ears after previous efforts.
Rebounding has been something that we continue to stress, and against this team, they kind of out-hustled us a few times.
Will Magnay had 9 steals and 9 assists, plus a pair of blocks. He says he's still finding the pace of the game since returning from knee issues.
I think conditioning's just still not quite there, but it's definitely getting there.
It keeps Tasmania in the top 6 with 10 wins and 8 losses. More royalty awaits. They face the Kings in Sydney on Friday night. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Good evening. 31 in Launceston today, 29 in Hobart, Devonport a high of 24 and 23 in Burnie. 37 was the state's top at Scotts Peak, Bushy Park 35 and 30 in Flinders Island. Clear skies over most of Tasmania is seen with fog over parts of the north and east coast. Looking further out, a cloud band with embedded thunderstorms sits over western South Australia. A series of troughs and lows are situated over WA and the Northern Territory tomorrow, while a cold front moves over Tasmania. North to northeasterly winds tomorrow, 20 to 30 knots, reaching 40 knots about the south, swells up to 3 metres in the west and south and below 1 metre in the north. A severe weather warning is current for damaging winds across the Upper Derwent Valley, East Coast, Central Plateau, Midlands and Central North forecast districts. A gale warning for the east and southwest coast and a strong wind warning for the Derwent Estuary, Frederick Henry Bay, Storm Bay, Banks Strait, Franklin Sound, Flinders Island and the west coast. Tomorrow's forecast now: Hobart 28, 26 in Geeveston, Bothwell partly cloudy and becoming windy. In the north, Launceston 26, a possible shower in Devonport, 25 in Cressy. Burnie tomorrow, a shower or two. Strawn 26, 23 in Curry. St Helens and Orford 27 and becoming windy and partly cloudy in Swansea. The UV forecast is extreme 11s across the state. Looking ahead to Thursday, fine with southwest to southeasterly winds. Friday, showers about the north extending to the east. And Saturday, showers about the north with possible thunderstorms in the west. Capital cities, 31 and sunny in Perth tomorrow. Adelaide 23 and a shower or two in Cairns. And currently Hobart mostly sunny and 30, Launceston 29 and Devonport mostly sunny and 23. That's all in weather, Kim.
Still warm out there. Thank you, Jackie. That's your local news for now. Good night.